So one of the stories that people often ask me to tell, if they've heard it before, is the story about the columns of light that came to me after I'd been working at the factory for a while. So the story starts like this. I had had a failed business venture, and I didn't know what I didn't know, which I think is often what happens to a lot of people. We don't know what kind of information is hiding in the background, and I didn't know how traumatizing that experience would actually be. I'd already lost my mom, I'd lost my dad, mom to cancer when I was 23, and dad in a car accident. So I got to experience the horror of a sickness that's long lingering. Actually, it wasn't too long. My mom only was with us for about 3 years after the diagnosis. And dad was gone in an instant. Oh, that reminds me of another story that I need to tell about forgiveness. So there's going to be a story about forgiveness. I still have to do this. I still have to come back to myself. In these moments when telling these stories, these tender stories, they're important stories. I'm sharing these stories with you because I want you to start thinking about the important stories that you have in your life, the turning point stories, the ones that made you take a completely different direction, the ones that forced you into another direction. And you did it because you knew that it was the right thing, even though it wasn't what you wanted to do. You had to, in a sense, warrior up, to go into battle, even though you were afraid, even though that you didn't know what was on the other side. You had to trust that moment. And so you made the decision to proceed, rather than stay in this place of stagnation, which maybe felt comfortable. So I believe that everybody has these stories. And if we forge forth, there is some kind of reward. And as I've been suggesting, we have to look for them. Sometimes they come beautifully in the way that I have experienced them. And sometimes they're much more subtle. So today I'm going to share with you one of the stories about trusting the process. So I set forth in motion a series of events. There was the moment when I knew that I couldn't stay in the family business anymore, and that I couldn't just walk away with nothing, that wouldn't be appropriate. And so I made the decision to go up against my family. And once that decision was made, and once I made in my heart the decision to draw the line in the sand, and the line in the sand for me was this: I knew that if it was not fair and was not reasonable for me, that I would let the attorneys on both sides take all the money. And that was a horrifying realization, and one that gave me the strength to proceed. I feel deeply inside of me that if I would not have made that decision, that it wouldn't have gone well for me. And as a matter of fact, our relationships, all the relationships except for 2 of them, got much better after that. After we completed the transaction, the sale of the land holding company. And it was less money than I could have gotten on the open market, but it was with family, and it was fair and reasonable for everybody, for the circumstances. I didn't realize how much pressure I was putting myself under. I didn't realize how much, pressure I was going to put on myself. I didn't realize the effect of the period of time that I was in. So I was coming up on 42, and my mother did not make it to her 43rd birthday. So in my life, as I look back and I see patterns, I can see that time and timing and the pressure I put on myself about time and timing, that's something I have to watch out for. I have to be aware of. We still have to proceed in a timely fashion. And as one of my mentors said, in business, often fast is how things get done. So you miss opportunities if you don't move fast, right? And at the same time, because I moved so fast and because I bit off more than I could chew, because I had this sense of impending doom, which is one of the trauma responses or one of my nuances of anxiety, that I always feel like there's this sense of impending doom, and I'm working on it. That's why I do the love meditation, because in trust that as I breathe in love, and breathe out love, and ground it to the earth, as I do that practice, as I breathe in the I am, the great I am, the great energy of source energy of creation, as I breathe that in, that I am one with this great source of creation. I am one with this source through love. And then I breathe in my name, and I breathe my name through me, and I breathe my name out into the world, and I know that it is all part of this love that I am here to walk in. As I do this practice, it eases up some of the tension that I have historically experienced around time, and knowing that this life is short and often fragile and fraught with dangers, and we have to forge ahead anyway with our divine mission and purpose and plan. That figuring out our purpose is essential to this whole process. And this is what the stone soup is all about. As we find our place, our purpose, our puzzle pieces, and we add it into the mix, something beautiful is happening. And we may not see it or know it in this lifetime, and that's it's a hard pill to swallow. And yet, we must. And yet, we must. So where am I in the story? So, I put all my money and energy and attention into getting my projects to the market. I had Conscious Caring Touch and Play with Purpose and Bard songs, and I felt like if I could just get one or the other to the market first, and somebody out there started buying, and it took off, and it did all the things that the guru said that it could do. If I could do that, then I could buy myself some more time, and then the bigger plans for this big space that I was renting. I let other people's agenda get in between me and what I saw as the smaller vision. I let them feed my ego and draw me into these other projects that they had intention for. And I got swallowed up into their whirlwind. And then I got embattled within myself. I got embattled because I didn't want, I had this finite amount of money, and I didn't have a perfectly thought out plan on paper that I could take to the bank. And they might say no, but they might give me some insights about how to improve it. And I felt threatened by everybody. And even though I knew that, and I knew that the answer was to step back and take a breath and not do anything, because I had been told this by some very wise people after my dad died. Don't do anything major. Like, don't buy any houses, don't buy any businesses, don't do anything major in this first at least 6 months to a year. But plenty of time had passed since Dad had died, and I had forgotten that information. I had forgotten those insights, that wisdom. So I share that with you in case you're going through grief right now. Take a breath. Do this love practice. If you do invest in anything, invest in like finding ways to be present with your experience in your own body, of healing those wounds, because the wounds in major times of trauma and loss and grief, the wounds will get bigger and more intense. Anything that's unhealed is going to come to the surface to be healed now, because the wounds have been, the scabs have been pulled off, the wounds are open. So I got this influx of money, but it felt like this was it. This was the last of the big money and I better do it right. And I put all this pressure on myself to do it perfectly, do it right. And then I just started making one bad decision after another and then throwing money at it. I'm the poster child of what not to do in those circumstances. Someone recommended to me to go to what are they called? Like a finance manager, money manager. God, I was so threatened by everyone. And that should have been my first clue. I was like, they're just going to tell me no, that I can't do what I want to do, and I know that my life is nearly over. My mom died before she was 42. What if that happens to me and I haven't put anything out into the world that can help other people? Because ultimately, at the baseline of everything for me is this desire to be helpful, that my knowledge that I carry in my body and my brain, that it's useful, that I didn't go through all of these experiences to have it add up to nothing, that I don't get to see the impact. And then I remember the artists who, after they were dead, was when their art finally made it. And the gurus tell you, just follow me. And every one of them has some nuanced version, and theirs is the answer to your prayers. If you're spun out, if you are struggling with runaway thoughts and dissociating from your body and not being present, you gotta start with there. You gotta start with this, the body. Because if your body's all spun out, your brain is offline. Now, this isn't just coming from me. I've been studying with Dr. Russ Kennedy for a while now. And during the time, and we'll get back to the columns of light, during the time that I was at the factory, working at the factory, I listened to podcasts on neuroscience and psychology because I had this really interesting job. My job was to package these lines that took the chemistry from this giant machine that made the silicone wafers that microchips are built on. That was my job. I put stickers on them directing the chemistry according to the blueprint. I was given a blueprint, I put on the stickers, and then I took them and put them in packages so that they stayed clean. That was my job. And I did this 12 hours a day, 3 days a week, I guess, a weekend job. Now, I could have had a number of jobs other than that and just focused on making money, but I was still dedicated to bringing my work to the world. And I believe that now, sitting here now with you, and it's been years since I started this process, sitting with you now, sharing this story in this way, in nature, is the result of all of that work. It's the result of hitting rock bottom. Several times I thought I'd hit rock bottom before, and then I thought I hit rock bottom again, and then I thought I hit rock bottom again, and then I lost a couple of teeth. And that was my greatest fear. And it happened, and I thought I would never be able to smile again. I can't even believe I'm telling you this now. I just want you to know that if you feel like it's rock bottom, you may have more rock bottoms to come to. And whatever things that you're afraid of, they may come true. And what you will find within yourself, this resilience, that it's source shining its light upon you, that will help you to get up again and attempt again to share what's within you. Because that is why we're here. 1, to figure out what our purpose is. 2, to love. 1, to love. 1, to love. 2, to figure out our purpose. And the meaning of all of it is to love and walk with purpose in this world. So it's taken some rock bottoms. And one of them was that on my 43rd birthday, I believe, who knows now? I could timeline this out. I should know it exactly. I haven't exercised for this. I've done most of it, but then I get lost in the details. Who cares? I know it was my birthday. I know that I was at a temp agency and taking a test to see if I was qualified enough to work in this factory. And it was like a technical test. Nothing, I didn't think I could pass it. It was crazy, and I did pretty well on it. It was surprising to me. And then I had to wait it out because that was in December, and the job didn't start till January. And I was living in this house with these women and these dogs, and you could fart on one side of the house and you could hear it on the other side of the house. It was this ticky-tacky house. And everything that I had built was just slowly disintegrating before my eyes. And I'd built websites, not just one website, multiple websites, and I had brought in different CRMs. I mean, I can look back now, and I thankfully took notes about all the things that I did wrong then. Someday, that will come into a book, but for now, I just want to help you just find your breath and find your feet on the ground and find safety in nature, because nature heals, because nature gives you sounds around you, and light and earth that flows, the minerals of the earth flow through our blood, and that connection helps. It helps immensely. So I come and I do this job, and as I'm doing this very physical practice with my body, and I have to stand on my feet all day long, as I'm doing that, I make the decision that I'm going to listen to these podcasts on healing my brain. And I'm just going to let myself absorb it. And I cried every day. And people would pass by on Fridays. That was the big day when everybody was at this job. And I would smile at them through my tears. And I prayed, and I prayed, and I prayed about that everything that I was learning about how to heal my brain and how to heal my body and how to heal this trauma that I hadn't figured out how to heal. All of this would somehow be homeopathically sent out through all of the pieces of these tools that I touched, all these lines that carried chemistry, that the microchips, that the silicone wafers, that the microchips that infuse our entire world, that all the people who were touched by those microchips would be touched by this work that I was doing in this factory to heal myself. That this healing of myself would touch the world. And that was my prayer often. And one day towards the end of the time, I knew it was coming. I felt it. I kept feeling it. And it was about this time of year, October, September. I was like, October, it's going to end, and I don't think that I got out of there until November. And then it actually happened in a moment's notice on a day. And it wasn't a take this job and shove it moment at all. It was a thank you for this job, thank you for this opportunity. I'm not giving 2 weeks notice. Today it ends. I've been given a sign by some starlings and a podcast where the guy had been in prison and he had $40 and a bus ticket home, and people at home who wanted him to come and be with them that loved him. And he made a beautiful world for himself in business. He made that happen for himself and other people who'd spent time in prison. And he's touched many, many lives. And I'll find the link to that story. It was game-changing for me. I thought, I have more than $40. What am I waiting for? The winter is coming. I've got to make some kind of move. So I called up my aunt and I said, I'm coming to town. Do you have a room for me? And she said yes. And I was moved out within a week. I gave notice in a day and moved out within a week. That's a holy moment, in my opinion. When you just know and then you take action. We must heed those calls. The warrior within us must heed those calls. And then it hasn't been easy since I've been in Hot Springs, but I've learned so much. I've gotten the opportunity to understand the nuances of narcissism and codependency. I've gotten to experience myself as the narcissist, and I've gotten to see the damage that is done by codependency, and I've gotten clarity around the wounds that we carry with us, whether we think we've healed them or not. And if we don't think that we've healed them, or if we don't even know that they're happening, but that our world just isn't going well, I promise you, there are unhealed wounds, mother wound, father wound, connection wound, what's that called? The attachment wound. And the mother wound and attachment wound fall under one category, and father wound and underdog wound fall in another category. And as we understand this, as we heal within ourselves, and understanding that our managers and bosses, there's a high likelihood they also carry these wounds within them. And if they're not good leaders, that's why that's happening. And you shouldn't stay at a business with a business and be loyal to them with the golden shackles if they're not treating you well. That you're staying because you have your unhealed wounds, that you deserve more than this, that your purpose is more important than that survival is important, but fulfillment of purpose is what we're here to do. And to understand that, and then self-actualization, to understand we're here to actualize what our divine mission and purpose is, our divine blueprint. We're here to play that out. And some of it is just understanding that we have these wounds that we have to heal from, and that that's part of a lifetime experience. So that's the whole story of circumstances around the end of that job and the next leap that I made. But before that happened, there was a day that my mother came to me and my father came to me, and they came to me in this factory, and I feel that it wouldn't have happened anywhere else. This factory was big. It was a big factory. Huge ceilings, huge space. The machines that we made, the tools are called tools. The tools that we made were big, like a minivan size. And so if we were working on 3 or 4 tools, you needed a lot of space. And there was a day that it happened twice. It happened a week and then another week, it's like 2 weeks in between, or another week in between. My mom came to me and my dad came to me, and they came in the form of columns of light. And I knew it was them. I'd met them before. The first time they came as balls of light, orbs. And I knew that it was my dad. I felt him. I felt his presence. And I felt my mom's joyful laughter. And they came to me while I was at the home of my childhood, after I had returned there to take care of cleaning up, taking the house apart after my dad died. It happened late at night. I was the night caver. I would go out in the middle of the night on the four-wheeler and go through the herd of cows. They say when someone dies, you have to step into their shoes to settle the estate. And I literally had to step into my dad's shoes to help out my family in the middle of the night to do his job, to tend the cows, to bring them in if they were having trouble, or if it was too cold for the babies. I was part of life. And it was in the middle of the night, and I was so alone and so frightened so much of the time. And one night, these balls of light came through the walls of the house, and I knew it was my dad first, and then it was my mom. And they were dancing around these balls of light, and I felt, oh, even though they hated each other when it ended, you know, when my mom died, my dad was so angry at her, and my mom never let go of her anger, I don't think, for him. And here they were, and these balls of light released from the physical form, the body. And they were dancing around and letting me know that they were okay and that I was okay and it was going to be okay. And that happened, I don't even know, 15-something years before I'm in this factory. And they are here in the form of columns of light. It's like their energy had expanded, and I knew that I was safe, and I knew that I was on the right track, and I knew that something big was coming. And every time I felt like that, I felt like that money is gonna follow. Because we're living in this world that's run by the energy of the merchants, and that's how they say we win. But I don't believe it. I believe that we win by fulfilling our mission, and somewhere along the line, the money gets easier. I still believe that. I can't be ruled by the money. I have to come from this about purpose and meaning and being helpful to others who are struggling and suffering. So the first time they came, it was just my mom and my dad, and I believe my mom came first. And when they came the second time, they brought with them an army of angels and guardians and guides. They say that when Jesus was born, the sky opened up and the angelic cacophony resonated through all the world. And in that moment, the world opened up and resonated to me, a cacophony of support. And I've been living on trust and faith ever since. When my dad was struggling so much from anxiety, I prayed for answers. When I knew that my family was struggling with the dysfunction of alcoholism, and what I didn't understand at the time as a child was all of this trauma, epigenetic trauma that had been passed down generation to generation. And there was all this good stuff too. I want you to understand that even though there's been trauma, there's also all of this greatness, because you couldn't be here and I couldn't be here. We could not be here if there was not also greatness alongside the trauma. And that we have to tap into the greatness as much as we tap into the trauma. We have to heal that. This is the cycle breakers. We are the cycle breakers. We are the game changers. When we decide to do this work, and it is warriors' work, we are spiritual warriors to go and to face these dragons in our family of origin. It takes nothing less than a warrior. And the labor of love. The thing about the outsider is that we have to be able to practice all of the best aspects of all of the Dharma types. I'm in the place where I have to learn how to play the merchant game the merchant way. No, new game, but under the merchant rules, kinda. I think even new rules. I'm not sure. But I know this is a time for me to learn the lessons that the merchants have to teach. And to play it so that people get it. I'll tell you though, in that moment, in this moment, with the sun, and sharing this story with you, what a gift. And all I know is that each moment, I was trying to figure out what it means to walk in love, to do love, to be love, to practice love. And all I can tell you is that when the thoughts get out of hand, out of control, that our thoughts get out of control and they take us to dark places, we have to bring to ourselves. We have to disrupt those thoughts with the thought of love. And for me, It's too complicated to then try to also figure out what it is that I want to manifest. I feel like I've already prayed all the prayers about what I want to manifest. And that Source, Creator, is working on those things on my behalf. I need to get in alignment with love again and again and again, because it is so challenging in this world with so many options and opportunities and suggestions about how to do this or that better. It gets confusing, and I need for myself to break through the confusion, to get clarity, and to keep my focus on one thing. I am. Love is. Love. One thing. That was three things. One thing, love, that can break the spell that we put upon ourselves, or that's put upon us with all the chaos around us. And especially in social media with the zombie scrolling and the ideas on repeat. Oh my God. That creates a weird spell within us right there. And we have to do something to disrupt it. And I can't play games anymore with all of the other ideas that other people have. There's one thing, love. And knowing myself, I came here for purpose, with a reason and purpose. And I have an army of angels, guardians, and guides behind me supporting this. I've been calling in the cavalry. And now it's time to step into my leadership. I put together a wisdom gathering quest to support you and support me in the process of doing this. And we'll play this again and again and again to find our way to our wisdom, our improvosa, our natural purpose, our authenticity, because our authenticity breaks through all of it, and we find our authenticity as we bring love to the earth, as we emanate love to the world, as we drink it in, as we sit in silence of it. I'm talking a lot right now. I've sat in silence several times today to take it in, to bring it in, to drink it in, so that I could be here with you and let this information flow forth from me to you. Because I believe you are here for a reason. And we got to find that first before any of the gurus are going to be helpful to you. There's a lot of great work out in the world, but it often skips the part about you really knowing who you are and what you bring to this world. And I promise you, the number one reason you are here is love. You're here to know love. You're here to give love. You're here to receive love. You're here to ground love to the earth. And then you're here to give love back to Source and Creator in gratitude for this beautiful life filled with wonder, and enjoy it. You're here to enjoy your days. And I've had a lot of days that I haven't enjoyed because I was letting the chaos around me get the best of me. Only in doing this practice, in going through all the things that I've gone through to get here with this clarity of purpose for you and for our world, it makes it worth it, because that's all behind me. Now there's just this, moving forward step by step. Native cultures, indigenous people often talk about walking in beauty. And I don't know what that is. We have so many ideas about what beauty is and beautiful, but I'll tell you, I feel much more empowered to walk in beauty when I'm breathing in love and breathing out love every day. And it takes a practice. It is a practice, because we forget to breathe at all. We forget to be, just be. Present with ourselves, present with the sounds around us. Just be with the breath. We change the game when we change ourselves. When we don't let the chaos around us, the chaos inside of us, get the best of us. We choose love. We choose it. We choose to walk in beauty. We choose to walk in love. We change the world. Every step that we take, every movement that we make has a ripple effect. And I know I'm not going to be perfect with this. I know. I know that I can get real fired up about stuff. I also know that I am committed to coming back to this practice, this single, simple, specific practice. Breathing in love, breathing out love. Breathing